The Galactic Council's emergency session erupts in chaos as Zixnor, the towering insectoid leader, presents damning evidence of humanity's rapid expansion. Holograms flicker across the chamber, displaying images of Earth's colonies spreading like wildfire across the stars. The council members buzz with alarm, their tentacles and antennae twitching nervously. "Humans are a plague," Zixnor declares, his mandibles clicking with disdain. "Their technological advancements outpace our predictions. We must act now to contain this threat." The chamber falls silent as Zixnor outlines their plan. They will eliminate Billy Phillips, Earth's most renowned explorer and diplomat, by sending him on a suicide mission disguised as a peace offering. The target, Rakar Prime, a Deathworld so lethal it makes Earth look like a paradise. As the council convenes, Billy Phillips stands before a mirror in his quarters on Earth, adjusting his uniform. His comm link chirps, and a holographic message appears. "Urgent mission," it reads. "Peaceful aliens stranded on Rakar Prime. Your expertise needed for rescue and potential alliance." Billy's eyes light up. This is the chance he's been waiting for. A diplomatic breakthrough that could secure humanity's place among the stars. Without hesitation, he accepts the mission, unaware of the Council's deception. Days later, Billy's ship pierces Rakar Prime's turbulent atmosphere. Suddenly, alarms blare as systems fail one by one. The ship plummets, spiraling towards a dense jungle below. Billy grits his teeth, fighting the controls as the ground rushes up to meet him. The crash landing is violent. Metal screams and tears as the ship carves a path through alien foliage. When the dust settles, Billy emerges from the wreckage, battered but alive. He surveys the hostile landscape, realizing the true nature of his predicament. Rakar Prime is a nightmare come to life. Toxic mists hang in the air, and the ground writhes with venomous creatures. Billy's survival instincts kick in as he salvages what he can from the ship. His comm link is dead, leaving him cut off from Earth and any hope of rescue. For 3 days, Billy battles the Deathworld's horrors. He narrowly escapes flesh-eating plants and predators with too many teeth and eyes. His training and quick thinking keep him alive, but each hour brings new dangers. On the 3rd day, exhausted and dehydrated, Billy stumbles upon a crystal-clear stream. He falls to his knees, ready to gulp down the life-saving liquid. Suddenly, a voice cuts through the jungle's cacophony. "Stop!" Billy freezes, water inches from his lips. He turns to see a figure emerge from the underbrush. It's a female Rakari, her alien features a mix of beauty and otherworldly grace. Her skin shimmers with bioluminescent patterns, and her eyes hold a depth of intelligence that takes Billy's breath away. "The water is poison," she says, approaching cautiously. "I am Nova. I have watched you since your arrival." Billy stands slowly, his mind racing. "I'm Billy Phillips from Earth. I came here on a rescue mission, but it seems I'm the one who needs rescuing." Nova's expression shifts, a mix of curiosity and wariness. "There is no rescue mission. You are the first outsider I've seen in years." As realization dawns on Billy, light years away, the Galactic Council watches in stunned silence. Their plan has backfired spectacularly. Instead of a quick death, the human has not only survived but made contact with a Rakari outcast. Zixnor's compound eyes narrow as he addresses the council. "This changes nothing. The human must not leave Rakar Prime alive. We must ensure his demise and prevent any alliance between humans and Rakari. Prepare for Phase 2. Back on Rakar Prime, Billy and Nova stand at the edge of the poisonous stream, the start of an unlikely alliance that could reshape the galaxy's future. The Deathworld that was meant to be Billy's tomb may instead become the crucible of humanity's greatest triumph. Billy and Nova stood at the edge of the poisonous stream, their eyes locked in a moment of mutual understanding. The human explorer and the Rakari outcast had found an unlikely ally in each other, their fates now intertwined on this deadly world. "We should move," Nova said, her bioluminescent skin pulsing with a soft blue glow. "This area isn't safe after nightfall." Billy nodded, his survival instincts on high alert. "Lead the way." As they ventured deeper into the jungle, Nova's knowledge of Rakar Prime's treacherous ecosystem proved invaluable. She pointed out a cluster of vibrant purple fruits hanging from a gnarled tree. "These are safe to eat," she explained, plucking one and handing it to Billy. But be careful of the ones with red spots. They're deadly poisonous. Billy examined the fruit before taking a cautious bite. The taste was unexpectedly sweet, with a hint of tartness that reminded him of Earth's berries. As they continued their journey, Nova taught him how to identify other edible plants and which areas to avoid. In return, Billy's human ingenuity came into play as they faced the challenges of the hostile environment. When they encountered a wide ravine filled with corrosive mist, Billy fashioned a makeshift bridge using fallen logs and vines. "Impressive," Nova remarked as they crossed safely to the other side. "Just a bit of Earth engineering," Billy replied with a grin. Their teamwork was put to the test when they stumbled upon a nest of venomous insects. The creatures, each the size of Billy's fist, swarmed towards them with alarming speed. Nova's quick reflexes saved them as she pulled Billy behind a large, waxy leaf. "Hold your breath," she warned, producing a small pouch from her garments. She crushed its contents, releasing a pungent odor that drove the insects away. As night fell, they sought shelter in a small cave. Billy used his survival training to create a fire, while Nova kept watch for any lurking predators. In the flickering firelight, they began to share stories of their respective worlds. "Tell me about Earth," Nova asked, her eyes shimmering with curiosity. "Is it true that your planet has vast bodies of water that aren't toxic?" Billy chuckled. "We call them oceans, and yes, they cover most of our planet. We even have smaller versions called lakes and rivers." Nova listened intently as Billy described Earth's diverse ecosystems and the achievements of human civilization. In turn, she shared tales of Rakari culture and her own experiences as an outcast. "My unique traits," she explained, gesturing to her iridescent skin, "they're seen as aberrations by my people. I was exiled here as a result." Billy felt a surge of empathy. "On Earth, we've learned to celebrate our differences. Your abilities are extraordinary, Nova. They're not aberrations. They're gifts." Their conversation was interrupted by a distant rumble. Nova's expression turned serious. "We should rest. Tomorrow we need to find better shelter and supplies if we're going to survive here long term." As dawn broke, they set out again, their senses alert for any signs of danger. After hours of trekking through dense foliage and avoiding carnivorous plants, they made a surprising discovery. Hidden within the hollow of a massive tree was an abandoned Rakari outpost. "This is incredible," Billy exclaimed as they entered the structure. The interior was filled with alien technology, some of it still operational. Nova's eyes widened as she examined a damaged device in the corner. "This is a long-range communicator. If we can repair it, we might be able to send a message off-world." Billy's heart raced at the possibility. He immediately set to work, drawing on his technical expertise to assess the damage. As he tinkered with the device's intricate components, Nova stood guard, her enhanced senses scanning for any approaching threats. Hours passed as Billy worked tirelessly on the communicator. The challenge of deciphering alien technology pushed his skills to the limit, but he refused to give up. Finally, as the planet's twin suns began to set, a faint hum emanated from the device. "I think I've got it," Billy exclaimed, his face beaming with triumph. But their celebration was short-lived. The ground beneath them began to tremble, softly at first, then with increasing intensity. Nova's expression turned to one of horror. "It's a terravore," she whispered, her skin flashing warning patterns. "The energy from the communicator must have attracted it." Before Billy could respond, the earth erupted in a shower of soil and rocks. A massive, worm-like creature burst through the ground, its segmented body covered in razor-sharp scales. Its gaping maw, lined with rows of serrated teeth, let out a deafening roar that shook the very air around them. "Run!" Nova shouted, grabbing Billy's arm and pulling him towards the exit. They sprinted out of the outpost and into the jungle, the terravore in hot pursuit. The creature's massive body crushed everything in its path as it burrowed through the ground, surfacing periodically to snap at its prey. Billy and Nova weaved through the treacherous landscape, their hearts pounding and lungs burning. They dodged poisonous plants and leapt over crevices, the terravore's roars growing closer with each passing second. As they reached the edge of a cliff, they skidded to a halt. Below them was a dizzying drop into a misty chasm. The terravore burst from the ground behind them, its monstrous form blocking their escape route. Trapped between the beast and the abyss, Billy turned to Nova, his mind racing for a solution. It was then that he witnessed something extraordinary. Nova's skin began to pulse with an intense, otherworldly light. The bioluminescent patterns danced across her body in mesmerizing waves, growing brighter and more complex by the second. The Terravore, initially lunging forward for the kill, suddenly recoiled. Its many eyes fixated on Nova's dazzling display, its movements becoming erratic and confused. "This way!" Nova whispered urgently, grabbing Billy's hand. Together they inched along the cliff's edge, Nova maintaining her hypnotic light show. The Terravore writhed in disorientation, unable to focus on its prey. As they reached a narrow path leading down the cliffside, they heard the distinctive hum of approaching spacecraft. Nova's light dimmed as they ducked into a hidden cave, their bodies pressed close in the confined space. The sound of the ships grew louder, then faded as they passed overhead. "That wasn't a rescue party," Billy said grimly, his suspicions about the true nature of his mission growing stronger. Nova nodded in agreement. "We need to warn your people and mine about what's happening. There's an ancient Rakari temple deep in the jungle. It might have the technology we need to send a message." As they caught their breath in the dimly lit cave, Billy found himself acutely aware of Nova's proximity. Their eyes met, a moment of unspoken tension passing between them. But the gravity of their situation quickly reasserted itself. "How far is this temple?" Billy asked, pushing aside the unexpected feelings stirring within him. "At least 3 days' journey," Nova replied, her skin flickering with subtle patterns that Billy was beginning to recognize as nervousness. "And the path there is even more dangerous than what we've faced so far." Billy squared his shoulders, a determined glint in his eyes. "Then we'd better get moving. We've got a galaxy to save." As they prepared to venture back into the perilous jungle, both Billy and Nova knew that their greatest challenges, and perhaps their greatest discoveries, lay ahead. The fate of their peoples, and possibly the entire galaxy, now rested on their shoulders. Shoulders, a determined glint in his eyes. "Then we'd better get moving. We've got a galaxy to save." Nova nodded, her skin pulsing with a soft, reassuring glow. They emerged from the cave, blinking in the harsh light of Rakar Prime's twin suns. The jungle stretched before them, a vibrant tapestry of alien flora in shades of deep purple and electric blue. As they set off, Billy's mind raced with questions about the true nature of his mission and the forces at play. Nova's knowledge of the planet's terrain proved invaluable as they navigated through the dense undergrowth. She pointed out nearly invisible trails and warned of hidden dangers lurking beneath the deceptively beautiful foliage. Their first major obstacle came on the second day of their journey. A massive carnivorous plant, its tentacle-like vines writhing in the air, blocked their path. The plant's maw gaped wide, lined with rows of needle-sharp teeth dripping with acidic saliva. "Watch out!" Nova cried, pulling Billy back as a vine lashed out, narrowly missing his head. Billy's survival instincts kicked into overdrive. He scanned their surroundings, his gaze falling on a piece of scrap metal from his crashed ship and a container of highly flammable sap they'd collected earlier. "I have an idea," he said, quickly fashioning a makeshift flamethrower. "Can you use your bioluminescence to distract it?" Nova nodded, her skin erupting in a dazzling display of pulsating light. The plant's vines recoiled, momentarily confused by the sensory overload. Billy seized the opportunity, unleashing a stream of fire at the base of the plant. It shrieked, a sound Billy didn't think plants could make, and withered away, clearing their path. As they pressed on, the jungle grew denser, the air heavy with the scent of alien spores. Suddenly, a faint buzzing sound reached their ears. Nova's eyes widened in recognition. "Heat-seeking drones," she whispered. "Someone's tracking us." They ducked behind a large, waxy leaf as a swarm of metallic orbs zipped overhead. Billy caught a glimpse of a symbol etched on their surface, the same one he'd seen on the Galactic Council ships. "We need to find cover," Billy said, his voice low and urgent. Nova's gaze darted around before settling on a dark opening, partially hidden by bioluminescent fungi. "There, underground caves. They'll mask our heat signatures." They sprinted for the cave entrance, the drones buzzing growing louder. As they slipped into the cool darkness, Billy heard the frustrated whir of the drones passing overhead. The cave system was a maze of narrow tunnels and cavernous chambers. In the tight confines, Billy became acutely aware of Nova's presence. The soft glow of her skin, the warmth of her breath, the subtle alien scent that reminded him of rain-soaked earth and something indefinably exotic. As they navigated the twisting passages, Nova's hand found his in the darkness. The contact sent a jolt through Billy, a mix of surprise and something deeper, more primal. They paused in a small chamber, catching their breath. "We should rest here for a while," Nova suggested, her voice barely above a whisper. Billy nodded, suddenly very conscious of their proximity in the confined space. They sat with their backs against the cool cave wall, shoulders touching. In the dim light cast by Nova's bioluminescence, Billy could see the curve of her jaw, the shimmer of her skin. "Tell me more about Earth," Nova said softly. "What's it like to swim in an ocean that doesn't try to dissolve you?" Billy chuckled, the tension easing slightly. He described the feeling of salt water and sun on his skin, of diving beneath waves and seeing schools of fish darting through coral reefs. Nova listened intently, her eyes wide with wonder. As Billy spoke, Nova's hand brushed against something smooth and angular, half buried in the cave floor. She dug it out, revealing a small, crystalline device. "This is Rakari technology," she said, turning it over in her hands. As her fingers traced its surface, the device hummed to life, projecting a holographic map of Rakar Prime's surface. "Look," Billy pointed to a pulsing point on the map. "That must be the temple." Nova nodded, her expression a mix of excitement and apprehension. As she held the device, her bioluminescence began to intensify, the patterns on her skin becoming more complex and vibrant. I can feel it enhancing my abilities," she said, her voice filled with awe. They studied the map, plotting a course to the temple. As they prepared to leave the safety of the caves, Billy found himself reluctant to break contact with Nova. There was a connection growing between them, born of shared danger and mutual reliance, but blossoming into something more. Emerging from the caves, they found themselves in a clearing that defied logic. A massive floating island hovered above them, suspended in midair by some unknown force. Atop the impossible structure, they could just make out the spires of an ancient temple. "That's our destination," Nova said, her enhanced bioluminescence pulsing with anticipation. Billy surveyed the series of floating rock platforms that led up to the main island. They shifted and rotated in a dizzying dance, offering a treacherous path upward. "Well," he said, a hint of nervous excitement in his voice, "I always wanted to try parkour in low gravity." As they prepared to ascend, the distant whine of engines reached their ears. The Galactic Council's strike team had found them. Billy and Nova shared a look of purpose. Their journey to the temple and the fate of their peoples now hinged on a deadly race against time. Time. Billy and Nova exchanged a determined look before launching themselves onto the first floating platform. The ascent was treacherous, each leap a calculated risk, as they bounded from one rotating rock to another. Billy's heart raced with each jump, the alien landscape stretching out beneath them in a dizzying panorama. Nova moved with fluid grace, her bioluminescent skin pulsing in rhythm with the shifting platforms. As they neared the top, the whine of engines grew louder. A sleek ship bearing the Galactic Council's insignia crested the horizon, its weapons trained on the ascending pair. "We're out of time!" Nova shouted, her voice barely audible over the approaching ship. With a final, desperate leap, they cleared the edge of the floating island. Billy rolled to his feet, chest heaving, as Nova landed beside him. Before them stood the ancient Rakari temple, its spires stretching impossibly high into the alien sky. They sprinted toward the entrance, the ship's energy weapons scorching the ground at their heels. As they crossed the threshold, massive stone doors ground shut behind them, sealing out their pursuers. Inside, the temple was a marvel of alien architecture. Crystalline structures lined the walls, pulsing with an eerie, otherworldly light. Billy and Nova paused to catch their breath, their eyes adjusting to the dim interior. "This way," Nova said, her skin glowing brighter as she led them deeper into the temple. They navigated winding corridors and vast chambers, each step taking them closer to the heart of the ancient structure. Billy marveled at the intricate designs etched into the walls, depicting what he assumed were scenes from Rakari history. Suddenly, they emerged into a colossal chamber that took Billy's breath away. At its center stood a towering crystal structure, pulsating with raw energy that made the air crackle with power. "The temple's power source," Nova whispered, her eyes wide with awe. Billy approached the crystal, his engineer's mind already analyzing its energy patterns. He pulled out a small device from his pack and began taking readings. "If we can harness this energy," he said, excitement creeping into his voice, "we might be able to boost our signal strength exponentially." Nova nodded, her skin flickering with intricate patterns as she approached a nearby control panel. As her hand touched the ancient technology, the entire room hummed to life, responding to her Rakari biology. Their progress was interrupted by a thunderous explosion that shook the temple to its foundations. Commander Crix's voice echoed through the chamber. "Surrender now, and you may yet live to see trial." Billy and Nova shared a look of unbreakable spirit. They had come too far to give up now. "I'll try to hold them off," Billy said, scanning the room for defensive positions. "You focus on getting that signal out." Nova's skin pulsed with nervous energy as she nodded. "Be careful, Billy." As Nova turned her attention to the ancient controls, Billy took cover behind a fallen column. The sound of approaching footsteps echoed through the corridors. The first strike team member to enter the chamber was met with a barrage of energy bolts from Billy's makeshift weapon. The soldier went down, but two more quickly took his place. Billy ducked and weaved, using the chamber's alien architecture to his advantage. He led his pursuers on a deadly chase, always staying one step ahead. In his frantic evasion, Billy stumbled into a hidden alcove. His eyes widened as he found himself surrounded by advanced Rakari weaponry. Without hesitation, he grabbed a sleek plasma rifle and a device that looked like it might be a shield generator. Newly armed, Billy re-entered the fray. The plasma rifle packed a punch, its searing bolts of energy cutting through the strike team's armor with ease. The shield generator created a flickering barrier around him, deflecting incoming fire. Across the chamber, Nova's connection to the temple grew stronger. Her hands danced over the controls, her body becoming a conduit for the ancient technology. Suddenly, her eyes snapped open, glowing with an inner light. "Billy," she called out, "I've found a way to stop them, but it's risky." Before Billy could respond, Commander Crix himself entered the chamber, flanked by his remaining soldiers. Billy found himself pinned down, the plasma rifle's charge depleting rapidly. Nova made her decision. She initiated the failsafe protocol, and the temple's energy surged into her body. Her bioluminescent patterns flared with blinding intensity, the power threatening to overwhelm her. Billy watched in awe as Nova rose into the air, her body radiating pure energy. Commander Crix and his team burst into the central chamber, weapons raised, but froze at the sight before them. With a cry that seemed to shake the very foundations of the temple, Nova released a massive surge of bioluminescent energy. The waves swept through the chamber, washing over friend and foe alike. The strike team, including Commander Crix, collapsed instantly, their neural systems overloaded by the intense light. Billy, protected by his human physiology and the shield generator, remained standing. As the light faded, Nova fell from the air. Billy rushed to catch her, cradling her weakened body in his arms. The moment their skin touched, a residual energy arced between them, creating an unexpected sensory link. Suddenly, Billy could feel Nova's exhaustion, her relief, and something deeper, an attraction that mirrored his own growing feelings. Their eyes met, and in that moment, all the tension and unspoken emotions of their journey came to a head. Their lips met in a passionate kiss, their bodies intertwining as they gave in to their desires. Nova's bioluminescent skin created an otherworldly experience, every touch sending cascades of light and sensation through them both. As they separated, breathless and flushed, the temple around them hummed with new life. The communication device sprang to action, now fully powered and capable of broadcasting across the galaxy. "We did it," Nova said, her voice weak but triumphant. Billy nodded, helping her to her feet. "Let's send that message and expose the truth." As they approached the now active communication array, a new challenge presented itself. The temple's energy levels began to fluctuate dangerously, the crystal at its center pulsing with increasing intensity. The power surge, Billy realized, his eyes widening. It's destabilizing the entire structure. Nova's face paled. If we don't contain it, the resulting explosion could destroy half the planet. With the incapacitated strike team as silent witnesses, Billy and Nova faced their greatest challenge yet. They had won the battle and unveiled the truth, but now they raced against time to prevent a catastrophe that could undo everything they had fought for. The ancient temple groaned around them, the very air crackling with unstable energy. Billy and Nova exchanged a determined look, knowing that the true test of their newfound alliance and their blossoming relationship was just beginning. The temple shuddered, sending tremors through the ancient stone floor. Billy steadied Nova as she regained her footing, both acutely aware of the danger surrounding them. The power surge, Nova gasped, her luminescent skin flickering erratically. It's destabilizing the entire structure. Billy's eyes darted to the pulsating crystal at the chamber's center. If we don't contain it, the resulting explosion could destroy half the planet. They shared a moment of silent understanding before springing into action. Billy's engineer's mind raced, analyzing the complex energy patterns radiating from the crystal. Nova placed her hand on a nearby control panel, her enhanced connection to the temple's technology providing crucial insights. There's a network of energy conduits throughout the temple, Nova explained, her voice strained with concentration. But many are blocked or degraded. If we can clear them, we can create a controlled release, Billy finished, already moving towards the crystal. It might stabilize the system. As they formulated their plan, a groan from behind caught their attention. Commander Crix was stirring, his advanced physiology allowing him to recover faster than expected. His eyes snapped open, filled with rage. "Stop them!" he barked to his slowly awakening team. Billy snatched up the plasma rifle he'd acquired earlier. "I'll hold them off. You focus on clearing those conduits." Nova nodded, her skin pulsing with grit as she raced from the chamber. Billy took up a defensive position, the weight of the alien weapon oddly comforting in his hands. The first strike team member to rise met a barrage of plasma bolts, forcing him back into cover. Billy found himself falling into a rhythm, his human adaptability allowing him to wield the Rakari technology with surprising effectiveness. Meanwhile, Nova sprinted through winding corridors, her bioluminescence flaring as she identified blocked conduits. She pressed her hands against the ancient stone, channeling energy to clear the obstructions. With each cleared pathway, she felt the temple's power flow more freely. Back in the main chamber, Billy found himself cornered by the recovering strike team. In a desperate move, he fired at a weakened section of the ceiling, causing a cascade of debris to block the corridor. The gambit bought him precious seconds, but the resulting tremor sent a shockwave through the temple's systems. Nova felt the surge immediately, the neural link sending a jolt of pain through her mind. She rushed back to the central chamber, her heart pounding with the realization of what needed to be done. As she burst into the room, she saw Billy fending off the last of the strike team. Their eyes met, and in that moment, Nova knew he understood her intent. "Nova, no!" Billy shouted, but she was already moving towards the pulsating crystal. Nova's body began to glow with increasing intensity as she interfaced directly with the temple's power source. The raw energy coursed through her, lifting her off the ground as her bioluminescent patterns swirled in mesmerizing complexity. Billy watched in awe and terror as Nova's form became almost ethereal, the power threatening to tear her apart. Without hesitation, he activated his shield generator and lunged towards her. The moment their bodies connected, the energy arced between them. Instead of overloading their systems, it began to stabilize, flowing more evenly through their entwined forms and back into the temple's grid. Their minds merged in a rush of shared consciousness. Memories, emotions, and sensations flowed between them in a torrent of intimacy that transcended physical boundaries. Billy felt Nova's purpose, her fear, and the depth of her growing feelings for him. Nova experienced Billy's awe at the alien world, his courage in the face of the unknown, and the intensity of his attraction to her. As their unprecedented human-Rakari bond stabilized the temple's systems, The ancient structure hummed with renewed power. Long-dormant defense mechanisms activated, targeting the remaining strike team members. Commander Crix, realizing the futility of his position, ordered a full retreat. The energy surge slowly subsided, leaving Billy and Nova collapsed on the floor, their bodies intimately entwined. Residual energy continued to flow between them, maintaining their heightened connection. As they lay there, catching their breath, the temple's communication array sprang to life. Messages flooded in from Earth and the Rakari homeworld, reacting to the revelations they had broadcast earlier. Billy helped Nova to her feet, their skin still tingling where they touched. They shared a look of wonder and perseverance, knowing that their actions had not only saved the temple, but potentially reshaped the future of human-Rakari relations. As they approached the control panel to assess the incoming transmissions, Nova's hand found Billy's. The contact sent a familiar jolt through them both, a reminder of their newfound bond. "Whatever comes next," Nova said softly, her luminescence pulsing in sync with Billy's heartbeat. "We face it together." Billy nodded, squeezing her hand as they turned their attention to the messages that would determine the course of their future, and that of their two species, and their two worlds. As the adrenaline of their recent ordeal faded, Billy and Nova found themselves grappling with an unexpected development. The intense energy transfer they had experienced in the temple had left an indelible mark on their psyches. Nova's luminescent patterns pulsed in sync with Billy's heartbeat, and a faint whisper of her thoughts echoed in his mind. "Billy!" Nova's voice resonated in his head, her eyes widening in surprise. "Can you hear me?" He nodded, equally astonished. "It's like you're speaking directly into my mind. How is this possible?" Before they could fully process this new connection, the temple's communication array crackled to life. Two urgent messages demanded their attention, one from the Rakari High Council, the other from Earth's government. Nova's fingers danced over the controls, her movements more fluid and precise than ever. "The High Council wants us on the homeworld immediately. They're intrigued by our connection." Billy leaned in, reading the message from Earth. "And my superiors want a full report on the Galactic Council's deception. We've certainly stirred up a hornet's nest." They shared a look of understanding. Their actions had set in motion events that would reshape interspecies relations. There was no turning back now. "We need to leave," Nova said, her skin flickering with nervous energy. "But your ship?" Billy's mind raced, recalling the advanced Rakari technology surrounding them. "Maybe we can use the temple's systems to repair and upgrade it. It's a long shot, but—" Nova's eyes lit up, completing his thought. "But with my connection to the temple and your engineering skills, we might just pull it off." They worked tirelessly, Nova channeling the temple's power while Billy integrated Rakari systems into his battered craft. As they labored, their mental link grew stronger. Fragments of memories, flashes of emotion, and bursts of sensation flowed between them. Just as they finished the upgrades, a proximity alert blared through the temple. Nova's face paled as she checked the readout. "It's Commander Crix. He's regrouped in orbit with the survivors of the strike team." Billy's teeth clenched. "We'll need a distraction to slip past them." Nova's bioluminescence flared as an idea struck her. She placed her hands on the temple's control panel, closing her eyes in concentration. The ancient structure hummed with power, and suddenly, brilliant pulses of energy shot into the atmosphere. An electromagnetic storm, Billy realized, watching the sensors. It'll disable their systems temporarily. They raced to the upgraded ship, the temple trembling around them as the energy pulses intensified. As they cleared the atmosphere, Billy's piloting skills were put to the test, navigating through the electromagnetic chaos. Once they broke free of Rakar Prime's orbit, Nova let out a sigh of relief. But their respite was short-lived. Her skin began to pulse erratically, sending surges of power through the ship's systems. "Nova!" Billy cried out, reaching for her. The moment their skin touched, he felt the turmoil within her. Drawing on their mental link, he helped her visualize her bioluminescent energy as a flowing river, guiding it back under control. As Nova's conditions stabilized, they found themselves in close proximity, bodies pressed together in the cramped cockpit. The residual energy from their shared experience crackled between them, igniting a spark of desire. Their lips met in a passionate kiss, more intense than before. Nova's luminescence created patterns of light and shadow across their intertwined forms, each touch sending cascades of sensation through their mental link. As they separated, breathless and flushed, a new alert caught their attention. A distress signal was broadcasting from a nearby planet. "We should investigate," Nova said, her voice tinged with concern. Billy nodded, setting a course for the signal's origin. As they approached, they were met with a startling sight. A small fleet of Galactic Council ships was attacking a hidden colony on the planet's surface. Nova's hands flew over the controls, scanning the colony. "There are humans down there, Billy. And Rakari, too. They must have been living here in secret." Billy's expression hardened. "Until the Council found them, we can't just stand by and watch." They shared a determined look, their newfound bond humming with shared purpose. Without a word, Billy engaged the ship's newly upgraded weapon systems, while Nova prepared to unleash her evolving powers. As they dove into the fray, Nova's bioluminescence flared with unprecedented intensity. Massive fields of energy erupted from the ship, disabling the Council's vessels with pinpoint accuracy. Billy's expert piloting and the advanced Rakari tech allowed them to outmaneuver the larger fleet. In a matter of minutes, the Council ships retreated, leaving the colony unharmed. As Billy and Nova landed to check on the colonists, they were met with a mix of awe and gratitude. A crowd gathered around their ship, a diverse group of humans, Rakari, and other species they had never encountered before. An older Rakari stepped forward, his luminescence dim with age, but his eyes bright with hope. "You've done more than save us," he said, his voice carrying over the murmur of the crowd. "You've given us hope that cooperation between our species is possible." As Billy and Nova looked out at the faces of those they had saved, the weight of their actions began to sink in. They had become symbols of resistance and unity, their victory over the Council's forces already spreading across subspace channels. Nova turned to Billy, her mind brushing against his. "Our journey just got a lot more complicated, didn't it?" He nodded, squeezing her hand. "But whatever comes next, we face it together." As the colonists began to share their stories and intel about other hidden communities, Billy and Nova realized their path forward was no longer clear. The Rakari High Council and Earth's government would have to wait. They had inadvertently sparked a movement that threatened to reshape the galaxy. With their upgraded ship, their evolving abilities, and their unbreakable bond, Billy and Nova prepared to navigate the complex web of galactic politics. As they listened to the colonists and planned their next move, they knew that their actions would continue to send shockwaves across the stars. As Billy and Nova coordinated with the colonists, sharing intel and planning their next moves, an urgent transmission cut through the buzz of activity. The message originated from a secret research outpost on the fringes of known space, its signal encrypted with a complex algorithm that only a select few could decipher. Nova's bioluminescence flickered rapidly as she processed the information. "Billy, we need to see this," she said, her mental link conveying the urgency more effectively than words alone. They retreated to their ship where Nova projected the decoded message. A holographic image of a human woman with sharp features and tired eyes materialized before them. "This is Dr. Ilara Voss of Outpost Omega," the woman began, her voice strained. "We've encountered a critical problem with Project Harmony. We need immediate assistance. The fate of our research, and possibly the galaxy, hangs in the balance." Billy and Nova exchanged glances, their shared consciousness buzzing with a mix of curiosity and concern. "Project Harmony," Billy mused. "That's the joint human Rakari initiative we've heard whispers about." Nova nodded, her skin pulsing with anticipation. "If they're reaching out to us, the situation must be dire." Without hesitation, they assembled a small team of their most trusted allies, a mix of humans, Rakari, and other species who had joined their cause. As they prepared for departure, Billy addressed the colonists. "We'll return as soon as we can," he promised. "Stay vigilant and continue to spread the word. Our coalition grows stronger every day." Their upgraded ship cut through space at unprecedented speeds, its Rakari-enhanced systems purring with efficiency. Nova used her evolving abilities to create a bioluminescent shield around the vessel. rendering them nearly invisible to conventional sensors. As they approached their destination, a small, icy moon orbiting a massive gas giant, Billy's tactical instincts kicked in. "Something's not right," he muttered, scanning the readouts. "There's debris in orbit." Nova's eyes widened as she processed the data. "The outpost! It's been attacked!" They descended through the moon's thin atmosphere, the ship's exterior crackling with frost. The research facility came into view, a sprawling complex of domed structures, half buried in the icy terrain. Plumes of smoke rose from several buildings, and signs of battle were evident. Landing near the least damaged section, Billy and Nova led their team out onto the frozen surface. The biting cold was immediately apparent, their breath forming clouds in the thin air. As they approached the main airlock, a group of haggard-looking scientists emerged to greet them. At the forefront stood Dr. Ilara Voss, her face gaunt, but her eyes burning with commitment. Beside her was a Rakari male, his bioluminescence dim and erratic. "Thank the stars you've come," Dr. Voss said, ushering them inside. "I'm Dr. Ilara Voss, and this is my colleague, Zinra. We don't have much time." Once inside, the scientists led them to a secure briefing room. Holograms flickered to life, displaying schematics of a complex device. "This is the harmonic resonator," Zinra explained, his voice carrying a melodic quality typical of his species. "It's designed to amplify and direct bioluminescent energy on a massive scale. The potential applications are revolutionary." Dr. Voss continued, "We were inspired by reports of Nova's unique abilities. This technology could revolutionize interstellar communication, planetary defense, even terraforming. But during our last test, the hologram shifted, showing a swirling vortex of energy. We lost control," Zinra said, his luminescence pulsing with distress. "The energy output far exceeded our predictions. If we can't stabilize it soon, it could tear this moon apart, and that's just the beginning." Billy's mind raced with the implications. This technology could be the key to unifying our coalition, maybe even challenging the Galactic Council's dominance. Nova stepped forward, her skin shimmering with purpose. "We need to stabilize the resonator, now." The scientists led them to a vast chamber housing the harmonic resonator. The device towered above them, an intricate network of crystalline structures and pulsating energy conduits. At its core, a swirling maelstrom of bioluminescent energy raged, sending out waves of power that made the very air crackle. Nova approached the resonator, her own bioluminescence intensifying in response to its energy. She turned to Billy, their mental link thrumming with shared tenacity. "I need to interface with it directly. It's risky, but it's our best chance." Billy nodded, knowing better than to argue. He took up a position at a nearby control panel, ready to assist. "I've got your back, always." As Nova placed her hands on the resonator's surface, the energy within seemed to recognize her. Tendrils of light reached out, enveloping her form. Her eyes glowed with an otherworldly radiance as she began to channel the chaotic power, attempting to bring it under control. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the facility. Dr. Voss rushed to a monitor, her face paling. "We've got incoming! Multiple ships entering orbit!" Billy's tactical training kicked in. He activated his comm link, addressing their team and the outpost security personnel. "Battle stations, we've got hostiles inbound." As Nova struggled to contain the resonator's volatile energy, Billy coordinated the outpost defenses. Through the facility's windows, he could see ships descending, sleek black vessels bearing the insignia of the Galactic Council's elite forces. A familiar voice crackled over an open channel. "Did you really think you could hide this from us?" Commander Crix's tone dripped with malice. "Surrender the resonator technology, and we might let you live." Billy's teeth clenched as he activated the outpost shields and weapon systems. "Not a chance, Crix. You want it? Come and take it." As the first waves of Council forces touched down on the icy surface, the battle for control of the harmonic resonator, and perhaps the hope of the universe, began in earnest. Billy and Nova found themselves once again at the center of a storm that threatened to reshape the cosmos, their bond and their perseverance about to be tested like never before. The facility shuddered as the first volley of weapons fire from the Council ships struck the outpost shields. Billy's fingers flew across the control panel, rerouting power and coordinating their defenses. "Nova, how's it coming with the resonator?" Through their mental link, he felt her strain and concentration. "Almost. There," she replied, her voice echoing both in his mind and in the chamber. Suddenly, the chaotic energy within the resonator began to stabilize. The swirling maelstrom coalesced into a pulsing, radiant core. Nova's eyes snapped open, glowing with newfound power. "It's done," she said, her voice carrying an otherworldly resonance. "And Billy, I feel different, stronger." As if in response to her words, the entire facility hummed with energy. The outpost shields flared brightly, effortlessly deflecting the Council's attacks. Dr. Voss stared at her readings in amazement. "The resonator, it's not just stable, it's amplifying Nova's abilities exponentially." Billy felt a surge of energy through his link with Nova. To his surprise, his own skin began to glow faintly. "I can feel it too," he said, marveling at the tingling sensation coursing through his body. A deafening explosion rocked the facility. "They've breached the outer defenses," Zinra called out, his luminescence pulsing with alarm. Nova's eyes narrowed with grit. "Not for long," she said. She raised her hands and a wave of bioluminescent energy surged outward from the resonator. It swept through the facility and beyond, engulfing the entire moon in a shimmering field of light. Outside, the Council forces found their weapons suddenly inert, their ship's systems disrupted by the powerful energy field. Commander Crix's voice crackled over the comms, filled with rage and disbelief. "What is this? Pull back! Pull back now!" As the Council ships retreated in disarray, Billy and Nova shared a look of triumph. Their victory was short-lived, however, as alarms blared throughout the facility. "The resonator's energy output is still increasing," Dr. Voss warned. "If we don't find a way to contain it, it could tear this moon apart." Billy turned to Nova, an idea forming in his mind. "We need to get this technology off-world, not just to save the outpost, but to use it against the Council." Nova nodded, understanding his plan without words. "Our ship, if we can integrate the resonator into its systems—" "Exactly," Billy said. He turned to Dr. Voss and Zinra. "Can you help us transfer the core technology to our vessel?" The scientists exchanged glances, then nodded. "It's risky, but it's our best option," Dr. Voss agreed. What followed was a frantic race against time. As the moon's crust began to fracture under the strain of the resonator's power, Billy, Nova, and the scientists worked to dismantle the device and transport its key components to their ship. Nova used her amplified abilities to contain the energy, while Billy and the others made the necessary modifications to their vessel. The ship's systems, already a unique blend of human and Rakari technology, eagerly integrated with the resonator's components. As the last connections were made, Nova channeled the resonator's energy into the ship. The vessel hummed to life, its hull gleaming with bioluminescent patterns. "It's time to go," Billy said as tremors shook the disintegrating facility. They quickly loaded as many of the outpost personnel and critical data as they could. As their ship lifted off, the moon's surface began to break apart beneath them. Nova extended her energy field around the ship, protecting it from the debris as they soared into space. From orbit, they watched as the moon collapsed in on itself, the resonator's unleashed power creating a spectacular light show against the backdrop of space. "Where to now?" Nova asked, her hand finding Billy's as they stood at the ship's controls. Billy's expression was grim but determined. "We've got the power to challenge the Council now. It's time to take the fight to them." As they prepared to make the jump to hyperspace, their ship's communication systems lit up with an incoming transmission. The message was heavily encrypted, bearing the hallmarks of high-level Council security protocols. Billy and Nova shared a puzzled look before accepting the transmission. A holographic image flickered to life before them, revealing the face of a stern-looking woman with sharp features and penetrating eyes. "This is Counselor Zara," the woman said, her voice low and urgent. "I don't have much time. What you've done at Outpost Omega has thrown the Council into chaos. They're planning something big, something that could change the balance of power in the galaxy forever." Billy leaned forward, his tactical mind already racing. What kind of something? Zara's eyes darted nervously off-screen before refocusing on them. They're mobilizing a massive fleet. Their target is the Nexus Hub. Nova's bioluminescence pulsed with concern. The Nexus Hub? But that's a major center for multiple species. An attack there could— Exactly, Zara interrupted. The Council means to make an example of anyone who might be inspired by your actions. But I believe this could be an opportunity. If you can get to the Nexus Hub first, you might be able to turn the tables on them. Billy's mind was already formulating a plan. Thank you, Counselor. But why are you helping us? Zara's expression softened slightly. Because I've seen what the Council has become, what I've become as part of it. It's time for a change. With that, the transmission cut out, leaving Billy and Nova staring at the empty space where Zara's image had been. Well, Billy said, a hint of a smile playing on his lips despite the gravity of the situation. Looks like we have a new destination. Nova nodded, her skin shimmering with anticipation. The Nexus Hub it is. As they set the coordinates, Billy felt the immense power of the integrated resonator humming through the ship. He shared a look with Nova, both of them acutely aware that they were on the cusp of something that could alter the course of galactic history. The stars outside the viewscreen blurred into streaks of light as they made the jump to hyperspace, racing towards a confrontation that would determine the fate of countless worlds. The Nexus Hub awaited, and with it, a chance to challenge the Galactic Council's dominance once and for all. The Starfire emerged from hyperspace near the Nexus Hub, its hull gleaming with bioluminescent patterns. Billy and Nova stood at the helm, their faces set with persistence as they approached the massive space station that served as a crossroads for multiple species. Nexus Hub Control, this is the Starfire requesting emergency docking clearance, Billy transmitted, his fingers dancing across the control panel. A tense moment passed before a response crackled through the comm system. Starfire, you are cleared for docking at Base 17. Please proceed with caution. As they maneuvered the ship towards the designated bay, Nova's skin pulsed with anxious energy. I can sense the confusion and fear emanating from the station, she said, her voice tight. News of our actions has spread quickly. Billy nodded, guiding the Starfire into the docking bay with practiced ease. We need to move fast. The Council won't be far behind. No sooner had they disembarked than they were met by a diverse group of representatives from various species. Among them stood a tall, willowy figure with iridescent skin, a member of the station's governing body. I am Xandor, Chief Administrator of Nexus Hub, the figure introduced itself. Your arrival has caused quite a stir. We've received threats from the Galactic Council demanding we hand you over immediately. Billy stepped forward, his posture radiating confidence despite the gravity of the situation. We understand the position this puts you in, Administrator, but we have information that suggests the Council is planning an attack on the Nexus Hub. We're here to help defend it. Xandor's multifaceted eyes widened. An attack? That's unprecedented. The Nexus Hub has always been neutral territory. Not anymore, Nova interjected, her skin shimmering with urgency. The Council sees anyone not explicitly supporting them as a potential threat. We need to prepare for their arrival. As if on cue, alarms blared throughout the station. A frantic voice came over the public address system. Multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace. Galactic Council signatures detected. Billy turned to Xandor, his expression grim. We're out of time. Will you stand with us? The Administrator hesitated for a moment before nodding decisively. The Nexus Hub will not bow to threats. What do you need? What followed was a flurry of activity as Billy and Nova coordinated with the station's security forces. They integrated the harmonic resonator technology into the Nexus Hub's defense systems, amplifying its shields and weapons capabilities. Nova stood at the heart of the station's control center, her hands placed on a specially designed interface. As the first wave of Council ships opened fire, she channeled her bioluminescent energy through the station's systems. The shields flared to life, easily deflecting the incoming barrage. Billy's voice crackled over the comm system. All defense squadrons, engage the enemy fighters. Keep them away from the station's vital systems. A fierce space battle erupted around the Nexus Hub, Fighters from various species who had chosen to stand with the Alliance against the Council's aggression swarmed out to meet the attackers. The void lit up with weapons fire and explosions. As the battle raged, Billy received an urgent communication from Dr. Voss. "Billy, we've analyzed the data from the resonator. There's something you need to know about Nova's enhanced abilities." "What is it?" Billy asked, his attention split between the tactical displays and concern for Nova. "Her power is growing exponentially, but her body may not be able to contain it for long. We need to find a way to stabilize her connection to the resonator's energy, or..." The implications hung heavy in the air. Billy's eyes hardened as he watched Nova, her form now glowing brightly as she channeled massive amounts of energy to defend the station. Suddenly, a massive Council dreadnought dropped out of hyperspace, dwarfing the other ships in the battle. Its primary weapon began to power up, the energy readings off the charts. "Nova!" Billy called out. "We need everything you've got." Nova's eyes snapped open, glowing with an otherworldly light. She reached out with her mind, connecting not just to the station's systems, but to every allied ship in the battle. A network of bioluminescent energy formed, linking them all together. As the dreadnought fired its planet-killer weapon, Nova let out a cry of exertion. The entire Nexus Hub and its defensive fleet lit up with blinding light. The incoming blast hit a wall of pure energy, dispersing harmlessly into space. The counterattack was immediate and overwhelming. Every allied ship, powered by Nova's energy, fired in perfect synchronization. The dreadnought's shields buckled under the assault, explosions blossoming across its hull. As the massive ship began to break apart, the remaining Council forces started to retreat. Cheers erupted throughout the Nexus Hub, but Billy's attention was solely on Nova. She stood motionless, her body pulsing with awe-inspiring energy. "Nova," he approached her cautiously. "Are you okay?" She turned to him, her eyes still glowing. "Billy, I can feel it. The power. It's too much. I don't know how long I can control it." Before Billy could respond, another alarm sounded. Xandor rushed over, his face grave. "We're picking up a massive energy surge from the edge of the system. More Council ships. Hundreds of them." Billy looked from the tactical display to Nova, the weight of their situation pressing down on him. They had won this battle, but the war was nowhere near the end. And now, with Nova's powers threatening to overwhelm her, they needed a new strategy. "We need to find a way to better control this energy," Billy said, his mind racing. "And we need to do it fast." As the Alliance forces regrouped and tended to their wounded, Billy knew they were on borrowed time. The Council would return in force, and they needed a plan. His thoughts turned to the legends Nova had shared about her people's ancient artifacts. Perhaps somewhere out there lay the key to harnessing Nova's growing powers and turning the tide of this conflict once and for all. With purpose in his eyes, Billy turned to Xandor. "We need to make contact with every species that's been wronged by the Council. It's time to build an army." As Nova leaned on him for support, her body still thrumming with excess energy, Billy knew their next move would shape the fate of the stars. The real challenge was just beginning. Billy's words hung in the air, charged with the weight of their impending mission. But before they could formulate their next move, a blinding light erupted from the center of the Nexus Hub's control room. The intensity forced everyone to shield their eyes, and when they looked again, they saw a swirling vortex of energy materializing before them. "What is that?" Xandor exclaimed, his multifaceted eyes reflecting the pulsating light. Nova stepped forward, her bioluminescent skin resonating with the energy. "It's calling to us, Billy. Can you feel it?" Billy nodded, an inexplicable pull drawing him towards the vortex. "I think this is our next step." Without hesitation, they stepped into the swirling energy. As it enveloped them, Billy felt a surge of power unlike anything he had experienced before. His body tingled with newfound energy, and he could sense Nova's presence more acutely than ever. The vortex expanded rapidly, engulfing the entire Nexus Hub and stretching out into space. The remaining Council ships found their systems going haywire, weapons and engines failing as the bioluminescent energy washed over them. When the light finally subsided, Billy and Nova stood transformed. Their bodies emitted a soft, constant glow, and Billy was startled to hear Nova's thoughts in his mind. "We're connected," Nova's voice echoed in his head, filled with wonder. Billy looked around the control room, noticing the awestruck faces of Xandor and the other species representatives. He realized he could sense their emotions, their very life forces pulsing in harmony with the energy flowing through him and Nova. "What happened to you?" Xandor asked, approached cautiously. "We've changed," Billy replied, his voice carrying a new resonance. "And I think we've just gained a significant advantage." As if to confirm his words, alarms blared throughout the station. A tactical officer rushed to Xandor's side. "Sir, the Council fleet, their ships are dead in space. Our sensors show complete system failures across their entire armada." Billy turned to Nova, a plan already forming in his mind. He didn't need to speak. She understood immediately through their newfound telepathic link. "We need to secure those ships," Nova announced to the room. "And we need to understand what's happened to us." Dr. Voss's voice crackled over the comm system. "Billy, Nova, I'm detecting extraordinary changes in your genetic structure. You need to get to the medical bay immediately for examination." As they made their way through the station, Billy and Nova marveled at their enhanced senses. They could feel the very pulse of the Nexus Hub, the life forces of every being aboard resonating with their own energy. In the medical bay, Dr. Voss and a team of multi-species scientists worked feverishly to analyze their new condition. Holographic displays showed their DNA, a perfect blend of human and Rakari genetic material. "It's unprecedented," Dr. Voss muttered, her eyes wide with excitement. "Your physiologies have merged and enhanced. The potential applications of this are staggering." As the scientists continued their examinations, Billy received a priority communication from the security team. They had begun boarding the disabled Council ships, encountering no resistance from the bewildered crews. "We've secured Admiral Crix," the security chief reported. "He's demanding to speak with you immediately." Billy shared a look with Nova. Through their link, they both knew this was a critical moment. They made their way to the detention area, their bodies humming with energy. Admiral Crix, an imposing figure even in defeat, glared at them from behind a force field. "What have you done?" he demanded, his voice a mix of anger and fear. "We've evolved," Nova replied simply, "and we've nullified your technological advantage." Crix's eyes narrowed. "You think this is over? The Council has contingencies you can't even imagine. Even now, a massive fleet is assembling near the Voidstorm Nebula. You've merely delayed the inevitable." Billy stepped forward, his bioluminescent aura pulsing with intensity. "Then we'll meet them there. But first, you're going to tell us everything you know about this fleet." As Crix began to speak, Billy felt a surge of commitment. They had won this battle, but a greater challenge lay ahead. With their new powers and the alliance they had forged, they now had a fighting chance against the full might of the Galactic Council. Nova's thoughts brushed against his mind. "We need to prepare the Starfire. If we're going to face this invasion force, we'll need every advantage we can get." Billy nodded, already formulating a plan. The Nexus Hub would become their base of operations, a rallying point for all those who oppose the Council's tyranny. And at the heart of it all, the mysterious energy that had transformed them held the key to their future. As they left the detention area, Billy and Nova's bioluminescent auras intertwined, a visible symbol of their unbreakable bond. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, their combined strength a beacon of hope in the darkness of space. As Billy and Nova prepared for the impending confrontation with the Council's invasion fleet, the Nexus Hub buzzed with activity. The Coalition forces, a diverse array of species united against the Council's tyranny, readied their ships and weapons. The Starfire, now integrated with bioluminescent technology, stood as the flagship of their makeshift armada. Billy stood on the bridge of the Starfire, his skin emitting a soft glow as he communicated silently with Nova through their newfound telepathic link. They had spent days honing their abilities, pushing the limits of their transformed physiology under Dr. Voss's careful supervision. "The Council fleet has entered the Voidstorm Nebula," a sensor officer announced, his tentacles waving in agitation. Nova's eyes met Billy's, a spark of perseverance passing between them. "It's time," she said aloud, her voice carrying a resonant power that filled the bridge. Billy nodded, placing his hand on the ship's main control interface. Nova mirrored his action, and together they reached out with their minds, connecting to the cosmic nexus that pulsed through the very fabric of space around them. Energy surged through their bodies, and the view screen lit up with a dazzling display of bioluminescence. A massive field of energy began to spread from the Starfire, expanding rapidly to encompass the entire star system. On the Council's flagship, Admiral Crix watched in disbelief as the swirling, radiant barrier enveloped his fleet. "What is this sorcery?" he snarled, turning to his second-in-command. "Push through it. We will not be deterred by light shows and trickery." As the Council ships attempted to penetrate the bioluminescent field, their systems began to falter. Weapons misfired, shields flickered, and navigation computers sputtered and died. "Now!" Billy's voice rang out across the Coalition communication channels. "All ships, engage as planned." The Starfire led the charge, its enhanced maneuverability allowing it to weave effortlessly between the larger Council vessels. Coalition ships of all shapes and sizes followed in its wake, capitalizing on the confusion that reigned among the Council forces. Nova stood at the heart of the Starfire's bridge, her body pulsing with energy. She reached out with her mind, creating localized disruptions in the bioluminescent field. Council ships caught in these pockets of turbulence spun out of control, their crews unable to compensate for the sudden loss of all systems. Billy coordinated the attack with precision, his enhanced cognition allowing him to process the complex, three-dimensional battle with ease. "Cruel battle group, focus fire on the carrier to our port side. Jindar squadrons, use your phased weaponry to target their shield generators." As the battle raged, Billy and Nova's connection to the cosmic nexus continued to evolve. They found themselves able to extend a portion of their power to their allies, creating a network of enhanced ships that could generate their own bioluminescent fields and energy weapons. "This is incredible," Zinra exclaimed from her position at the tactical station. "Our ships are operating at efficiency levels I've never seen before." The tide of battle began to turn in favor of the Coalition. Council ships, once seemingly invincible, now fell to concentrated fire from the empowered Alliance vessels. But as victory seemed within reach, a massive shadow loomed at the edge of the battlefield. "New contact," the sensor officer called out. It's enormous." A colossal dreadnought emerged from the depths of the nebula, its hull dripping with weaponry. At its heart, a pulsing core of dark energy began to charge. "That weapon," Nova gasped, her legs shaking from the energy readings. "It's designed to destabilize the cosmic nexus itself." Billy's mind raced, formulating and discarding plans in microseconds. "Dr. Voss," he called over the comm, "we need options. How can we stop that thing?" Dr. Voss's voice crackled back, tight with tension. "We could modify the Starfire to channel the full power of the cosmic nexus, but the strain on the ship's systems, and on you and Nova, would be immense. It might be our only chance, but the risks—" "Do it," Billy and Nova said in unison, their decision made before the words were even spoken. As Dr. Voss and her team worked feverishly to modify the Starfire's systems, the Dreadnought's weapon reached full charge. A beam of coruscating dark energy lanced out, aimed directly at the heart of Luminera. "Brace for impact," Billy shouted, guiding the Starfire into the path of the beam. The moment the energy struck the ship, Billy and Nova felt as if their very atoms were being torn apart and reassembled. They screamed in unison, their bodies glowing so brightly that the bridge crew had to shield their eyes. In that moment of indescribable agony and power, Billy and Nova's consciousness merged completely. They were no longer two separate beings, but a single entity of pure energy and thought. Through their shared mind, they exerted control over the cosmic nexus with a precision and power that defied comprehension. The dark energy from the Dreadnought's weapon was absorbed, channeled, and redirected. A lance of pure bioluminescent energy erupted from the Starfire, striking the Dreadnought's weapon systems with pinpoint accuracy. The resulting explosion tore through the massive ship, leaving it a burning, twisted hulk. As the Dreadnought's remains drifted lifelessly through space, the Council fleet fell into disarray. Admiral Crix, his flagship crippled and his superweapon destroyed, gave the order to retreat. The coalition forces pressed their advantage, picking off stragglers as the Council ships fled the Void Storm Nebula. Cheers erupted across the Alliance channels as the last enemy vessel disappeared from sensors. On the bridge of the Starfire, Billy and Nova collapsed, their bodies still crackling with residual energy. As the crew rushed to their aid, Dr. Voss's voice came over the comm, filled with both triumph and concern. "We've won the battle, but Billy and Nova's condition is critical. Their hybrid physiology is undergoing further mutations. We need to get them to the medical bay immediately." As Billy and Nova were rushed off the bridge, urgent communications began pouring in from across the galaxy. News of the Council's defeat spread like wildfire, igniting hope in oppressed worlds and inspiring declarations of independence. The victory at Luminara marked a turning point in the galactic power structure, but as Billy and Nova fought for survival in the medical bay, it was clear that their greatest challenges still lay ahead. As Billy and Nova fought for survival in the medical bay, the Nexus Hub hummed with a mixture of celebration and concern. Dr. Voss and her team worked tirelessly, monitoring the rapid changes occurring within the hybrid bodies of their patients. Days turned into weeks as Billy and Nova drifted in and out of consciousness, their forms pulsing with bioluminescent energy. The coalition forces, emboldened by their victory, began the monumental task of reshaping the galactic order in their absence. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, Billy's eyes fluttered open. He found Nova beside him, her hand intertwined with his. Their shared consciousness allowed them to communicate without words, sharing the relief of their recovery and the weight of what lay ahead. Dr. Voss approached, her face a mixture of awe and excitement. "Your bodies have stabilized," she explained, gesturing to the holographic displays surrounding their beds. "The mutations caused by the energy exposure have integrated fully with your hybrid physiology. You're stronger now, more connected to the cosmic nexus than ever before." As Billy and Nova slowly regained their strength, reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Oppressed worlds declared independence, and calls for a new galactic alliance echoed through subspace channels. The coalition's victory at Luminara had ignited a spark of hope that was quickly becoming a blazing inferno of change. Weeks passed, and the Starfire underwent extensive repairs and upgrades. Engineers worked around the clock, integrating the lessons learned from the Battle of Luminara into its systems. The ship's bioluminescent technology was enhanced. Its connection to the cosmic nexus deepened. Once fully recovered, Billy and Nova stood on the bridge of the newly refitted Starfire, their bodies emitting a soft, pulsating glow. They shared a look of grit as the ship prepared to depart. "It's time," Billy said, his voice resonating with newfound power. "We need to solidify these alliances, show the galaxy what we can achieve together." Nova nodded, her mind already reaching out to the ship's enhanced systems. "Where do we start?" Billy brought up a holographic map of the galaxy, dozens of worlds highlighted in urgent red. "Everywhere we're needed. We'll go planet by planet, solving local problems, demonstrating the power of cooperation between species." And so began their galaxy-wide tour. On Xerxes 4, a world torn apart by resource conflicts, Billy and Nova used their bioluminescent powers to reveal vast, untapped deposits beneath the planet's crust, ending centuries of war in a matter of days. On Azura, a paradise world choking on industrial pollution, they dove into toxic oceans. Their hybrid bodies pulsed with energy as they purified the waters, restoring life to coral reefs and healing the damaged ecosystem. With each world they visited, their legend grew. Holovids of their feats spread across the galaxy, inspiring hope and unity in their wake. The coalition's ranks swelled as more and more species pledged their support to the cause. But as their influence expanded, a shadow loomed on the horizon. Reports trickled in of the Galactic Council's remnants, fortifying their capital world, Nexus Prime. Admiral Crix, now leading what remained of the once mighty council, had adopted a scorched earth policy. Aboard the Starfire, Billy received the transmission from their intelligence network. His mind focused as he listened to Crix's threats, promising destruction to any world that dared align with the coalition. Nova felt the spike of concern through their link. "We can't let him follow through on those threats," she said, her eyes meeting Billy's. But a direct assault on Nexus Prime would result in massive casualties on both sides. Billy nodded, his mind racing through possibilities. Suddenly, his eyes lit up with an idea. What if we don't need to fight them at all? What if we could show everyone on Nexus Prime the truth all at once? He quickly outlined his plan to Nova and the crew. Using the cosmic Nexus-enhanced Starfire, they would attempt to penetrate Nexus Prime's defenses and broadcast the truth about the Council's corruption to every being on the planet simultaneously. The plan was audacious, perhaps even impossible, but as Billy looked around at the determined faces of his crew, he knew they were ready for the challenge. "Send word to the Coalition," Billy commanded. "Tell them to assemble the fleet near Nexus Prime. We'll need them as a distraction while we make our approach." As the Starfire sped towards its rendezvous point, Billy and Nova spent hours in deep meditation, preparing their minds and bodies for the task ahead. They would need every ounce of their hybrid abilities to pull off this daring plan. The Coalition fleet assembled at the edge of the Nexus Prime system, a motley armada of ships from dozens of species, united in purpose. As they engaged the outer defenses of Nexus Prime, drawing the attention of the Council's forces, the Starfire slipped away. Billy guided the ship through a series of treacherous wormholes, relying on Nova's enhanced senses to navigate the twisted paths of subspace. As they emerged on the far side of Nexus Prime, they activated the ship's most powerful cloaking field, a shimmering blend of advanced technology and their bioluminescent abilities. Heart-pounding, Billy eased the Starfire into a high orbit around Nexus Prime. The planet loomed before them, its surface a maze of gleaming cities and fortress-like structures. Somewhere down there, Admiral Crix waited, unaware of the revelation that was about to shake his world to its core. "Are you ready?" Billy asked, turning to Nova. She nodded, her eyes glowing with willpower. "Let's show them the truth." Together they reached out with their minds, tapping into the power of the cosmic nexus. A wave of bioluminescent energy began to spread from the Starfire, expanding rapidly to encompass the entire planet. As the energy field touched the surface of Nexus Prime, Billy and Nova felt the minds of millions suddenly connect to their shared consciousness. In that moment, the truth of the Council's actions, the potential for a unified galaxy, and the hope for a better future flowed from their minds to every citizen of Nexus Prime. The effect was immediate and profound. Through their connection, Billy and Nova sensed the shock, anger, and ultimately, the uprising that began to sweep across the planet. The carefully constructed lies of the Galactic Council crumbled in the face of undeniable truth. But even as they celebrated this initial success, a new threat emerged. Deep beneath the surface of Nexus Prime, something ancient and terrible began to stir, a doomsday failsafe that threatened to tear the planet apart.
If you finished this story, please subscribe and like the video. Then leave a comment that says, "I liked the story," and I will heart every single one of them. It really helps me. Thank you for your time.